If you haven't explored the idea of minification yet, don't worry, it's a piece of cake. In fact, it will probably take you less time to implement than it will to watch this video, and it will give you instant gains on your website's performance. Minifying your JavaScript is one of the quickest and easiest ways to improve page load time and bandwidth, since it reduces file size without actually changing any of the valuable content. Less file size equals less bandwidth when a user requests your content from the server to their browser, and therefore faster page load times. And as we all know, page load times have a significant impact on user experience, and therefore your overall SEO and search engine results. Now let's quickly cover what minification is not. It's not encryption for more advanced security features, which takes plain, everyone can read it data, and translates it into top secret, only those with the encryption key can read it data. Since JavaScript has to be downloaded and run on the end client's browser in order to render your site properly, JavaScript encryption isn't really a thing in today's world. It needs to stay in a readable format in order for it to be interpreted and executed by JavaScript runtime, which isn't designed for decryption. If you're really worried about security in this area, for instance, if you've got some proprietary code that you'd like to hide, or you just want to make a super-duper aggressive move against a handful of spam bots that you suspect are looking for JavaScript vulnerabilities, then the best you can probably do is to obfuscate your JavaScript. This gives you general protection against casual observation of your JavaScript code, but you should know that it doesn't prevent anyone from stealing it if they really, really want to. And in any case, obfuscation and even encryption, if it were possible, does nothing to reduce file size, which is really our main goal here. Now, we're also not talking about compression, which, similar to encryption, is a process that translates the data, so to speak, with a singular goal of reducing the number of bits required to represent it. We all know compression from programs like WinZip, 7-Zip, WinRAR, and so on, which can take any file, be it text, code, audio, or video, and scrunch it down, to use a highly technical term, into a smaller file size to reduce its impact on storage and bandwidth. You also might have heard the term uglification, and that's exactly what we're talking about. That's just another way of minifying your JavaScript. So, drum roll. Let's now talk about what minification actually is. All it is taking any JavaScript file, which is formatted for the developer to be able to read clearly and to more easily navigate through it, and reducing it into just the content itself without all the comments and the formatting, the spaces and line breaks, etc. Taking it from this, which is formatted to be read easily by humans so that they can navigate through the various functions and sections, so they can edit it or review it if they need to, and rendering it out like this. Harder for the human to decipher, but making no difference whatsoever to a computer. Same script, same functionality, but reducing the file size from this to this. Simple. It's like taking this 300-page book designed for the human eye and reducing it to this 140-page book that a robot could read. Simple. It really depends on how big your JavaScript file is to begin with, but usually this can save up to 50% of your file size. So especially if you have a large website with lots of scripts and functions and lots of traffic, what seems like a pretty trivial issue here could stack up to lots of savings in terms of bandwidth. Not to mention all those saved milliseconds in page load times, which could add up to real significant time and increased user experience. If I've got 19 JavaScript files in an uncompressed format, which is quite normal, this could take 6 requests to fetch it all. But if I've got it compressed, then maybe it takes just 2 requests. Point is, in the wild west of the internet and with the absolute traffic jam around the globe, these things are a game of inches, and every little thing you can do to optimize your site may be just what it takes to improve your SEO and bump you up a notch in the SERPs. And on this note, assuming that you go through these steps and minify your JavaScript, go ahead and check out our very similar video on CSS minification, as well as our video on enabling gzip compression, which will essentially do the same thing for your HTML itself. Okay, so the stage is set. Now let's look at how quick and simple this is to implement. Just open up your JavaScript file and start deleting all the spaces manually. Depending on the size of your file, this should take... Okay, just kidding. If you Google Minify JavaScript, you'll find lots of websites that let you translate your code for free. Just copy your JavaScript code, paste it, and minify it. Now, in my case, I've got 3 JavaScript files for my site, and I'll minify all 3 of them. However, in my case, I'm not going to replace my old JavaScript files, since maybe sometime later this year, I'm going to hire a web developer to do some work on my site, and I certainly don't want to dump this minified JavaScript on his or her desk to work with. I'll still want to have that nicely formatted JavaScript on hand for them. So in each of these cases, I'll save the minified JavaScript files under a new name. I'll call them min. I'll upload these to my JavaScript folder on my server. And in my HTML, I'll be sure to point to those new minified JavaScript files in my code. And that's it. Feel free to check out our other videos so you can keep fine-tuning and getting the most out of your SEO. And click subscribe to stay updated with new tips and tricks to get you to the top of the search engine results pages.